Okay, so now that we got our mesh completed and we got some maps to use inside of Quixel Mixer, what we need to do now is to get a single mesh exported that we can use inside of Quixel Mixer. So the way we're going to do that is by duplicating the low collection. So I'm just going to right click that and go duplicate collection. I'm going to rename that collection. I'm going to name it sunclock_mesh. I'm going to take everything inside of that collection and I'm going to right click and go join. And again, I'm going to rename that. I'm just going to call it sunclock mesh again. And I'm going to hide everything I don't need. So I'm going to hide low. I'm going to hide cage. And I'm going to hide high. Cool. So from here, I might just go to my modeling. And from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually scale this to an appropriate size for engine. So before we do that, we need to know exactly how big this is. So we're going to leverage a plugin known as Measure It. It comes standard with Blender. So I'm just going to go to my preferences. I'm going to go to my add-ons. And I'm going to type in measure. There it is. It appears already. So you just enable that. And once it's enabled, in the panel up here, if you just drag this out and go to view, you can see that Measure It tools now appears. If I open that, I'm going to see we get a bunch of options. The way we're going to get this to work is we're going to select two different vertices that span the whole length of the mesh. Cool, from left to right. And I'm just going to click segment. So we don't see anything yet, and that's because this show option isn't turned on. So I'm just going to click that. There we are, cool. So I'm going to go back to object mode, and you can see that there's blue line here now. And in the middle of that, we have this measurement. So it says 4.71 meters, and that's how wide this exists inside of the world, right? So when we import this into Unreal Engine, it will see this as centimeters. It won't know that it's going to be meters. So we actually need to scale this up quite a bit. So we need this to be about 90 centimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to scale this up. But before I do that, I actually want my glass face to come with it. So I'm going to turn that on, and I'm going to have both of these selected. And I'm going to go to my scale tool, and I'm going to middle click and start dragging. So I'm going to need to drag quite a bit to get it up to 90. There. Once I get close, I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to actually start dragging in, and I'm going to hold shift just so I can get a little bit more control. And hopefully we can get to actually 90. Is that 90? Perfect. Cool. So now that we've scaled both of those up, I'm going to go ahead and hide my glass face. And I'm going to go to my options here. So down here. So my object properties. And I'm going to actually make sure that this scale is now reset to 1. So to do that, I need to actually go to Object, Apply, All Transforms. And I need to do the same thing for the glass face actually. So let's do that now. So again, Object, Apply, All Transforms. Great. So really good. So what we want to do now is I'm going to hide the glass face again. I'm going to select the sun clock, and I'm going to go File, Export, Wavefront OBJ. So I'm already in my sun clock folder. I'm just going to call this sunclock_mesh without face. Okay. And I'm also going to make sure that this selection only is checked, because otherwise it will export everything that's in the scene, and we don't want that. So once we've done that, I'm just going to click Export OBJ. Great. So the last thing I need to do is I need to export a version that has both of these, right, in the same mesh. So, but before I do that, I'm going to make sure that each one has its own material. So we already have sun clock material, right? I'm going to make another one here, and I'm going to call it sun clock face underscore material, right? And that should be all we need to do before we merge these. So again, I'm going to take both of these. I'm going to right click, I'm going to go join. So now we have a version of that mesh that has both the actual object itself and the glass face that we're going to use. And they both have their own material. So I'm going to export that now. And I'm just going to call this with face. Again, make sure selection only is on and click export. Great. So that should be all we have to do now. So now we can take this inside of Quixel Mixer. We can texture the main body. And when we take this finally, after we've textured this into Unreal Engine, we can now utilize the other version that we made that has a face, and we can put a glass texture on top of this glass face. And it should all work quite well. Okay, cool.